it looks like Jesus is a bit contradicting himself today in the gospel, because the gospel begins with, after he had washed the feet of his disciples. And of course, his disciples, for the disciples, he was their master. He was their teacher. He was the one who had sent them. But how could he then wash their feet? And at the same time saying that no servant is greater than his master. That is exactly why Peter refused, tried to prevent him from washing his feet, because he knew he was his master. And the servants could never be greater than a master. A master could not wash the feet of the servant. The slaves were meant to wash the feet of their masters, or the servants or the slaves were meant to wash the feet of their masters, and not the other way around. But see what happens. After Jesus had washed the feet of the disciples, then he told them, a servant could never be greater than the masters. But this is not really the point he has passed, because he as master has washed the feet of his servants. But what is he saying, therefore? That this is what the disciples must do. That if they have to be great, again, that is the message again, the message of greatness through humility. That the greatest of you must be like this little child. That if you want to be great, then you must humble yourself. You must wash the feet of your brothers. You must wash the feet of your servants. And then he goes on to say that this message is very clear and very, very important, especially for people who would want to be servants of God, people who want to be missionaries, people who want to be Christians, people who want to practice their Christian virtue. He says no servant is greater than his master, and no messenger is greater than a man who sends him. And this is very important, especially for us who are aspiring to become priests in the future, because this is also a position of power that can make you begin to feel that you are the message, that can make you to feel that you are the master. The fact that you are ordained as a priest does not make you the Lord over people, does not give you the power to begin to command and to put down people, and to begin to behave like you are the Alpha and the Omega, to begin to behave that you are in charge, that when you speak, nobody can oppose you, or that you have the final word, or that you don't have the ability to listen again because you have been ordained and put in position of power. Jesus teaches us something, that if we have been given that uncommon favor, if we have been chosen as Christians, and talk less of being chosen to be priests or sisters, then we must be the least. We must be the servants of all. We must be able to bend down and wash the feet of others. That is what it means to be master. That is what it means to be teacher. That we are not the message itself. We are only messengers. We are not the masters. We are only servants. We should not feel that we have it all, because maybe you are a priest now, or that because you have that position of power, you are a parish priest, therefore nobody is going to breathe again because you are a priest. Nobody is going to talk to you again because you are a priest. That is not the message that Jesus passes across. That is not what he sent us to do as messengers of God. And it goes across all dimensions, not only for priests, but for all of us Christians, that he taught us humility. He says that if we have to be masters, if we have to be teachers, if we have to be exemplary, if we have to be disciples, we must deny ourselves. Luke chapter 9, verse 23. We must deny ourselves. It is not about us. We are only messengers. We are only carriers of the message. We are only bearers of Christ. We are not the message itself. We are only messengers. We are not the mission. We are only missionaries. We are only carriers of the word of God. And that means we must be the most humble of all people. We must be those who would bend down and wash the feet of others. We must be those who must allow ourselves, like St. Pope Francis says, we must smell like the sheep. We must be the least. We must be the most humble. We must realize that nobody takes this honor upon himself. It is freely given. And like Matthew says in his gospel in chapter 10, verse 8, freely you receive, freely you must give. You must not wait to be carried in cars in order to serve people. You must not wait to be treated like kings in order to feel that you are a priest. No, we must be servants. We must be those people who will take the least positions in society. And this is not what is happening, because position of power or position of maybe priesthood or parish chairperson or Eucharistic ministers have made us to feel that we have to be treated differently. We have to be treated with pride. We have to be put in positions where we will feel that we are in charge. No, that is not what Jesus taught us. That is exactly contrary to the message of Jesus. He said to his disciples, you call me master and teacher, and so that is who I am. That is true. But if your master and your teacher has washed your feet, then therefore, you must go and wash the feet of others. You must become the least of all. You must become the servant of all. And when you can do this, he says that those who will receive you will receive me. In that humility of yours, it is when you have that humility, then you become the image of Christ. You become a bearer of Christ. You become a light to the people. And people, when they see you, they say, yes, this is an example of who Christ is. It's not when we become kings. No, Christ, we don't represent Christ at all if we take positions of power. We don't represent Christ if we expect to be treated as kings and queens. We don't represent Christ if we are up there and we expect people to wash our feet. No, that is not, we don't represent Christ. It is when we humble ourselves, Christ says, he says, then when people accept you, they accept me. When people reject you, they reject me, because you are in my own image. So my dear brothers and sisters, there is nothing more than adopting this which Jesus himself has taught us, that virtue of humility, to realize that we are not masters, we are only servants and slaves, to realize that we are not the message, we are only messengers, carriers of the message. We are only instruments in God's hands. And if we are only instruments, then we must allow ourselves to be used by Christ according to his own will. Let us therefore ask during this Eucharistic celebration for the gift of humility.